names. And so that has been great. Plus we've had Zooms with that. So keeping the art going and the contacts going. And then the art and spirituality, I've been doing the Abbey of the Arts with Christine Walters Paintner. She's a prolific author, but she is the convener of Abbey of the Arts. So the first course I took was Soul of the Pilgrim, and now I'm going to do Earth as Cathedral. So that's really good. That's the first one was 8 weeks course. This one's 7. So
wow.
those are really, really good for me, and be happy to put that on the chat.
Yeah, share it to the chat, and we'll include it in the follow-up email to everyone.
Sure.
Monica said she's really enjoyed Barking Legs live stream, the pop-up projects videos, visiting sculpture fields, Rise's Baby How You Doing series. There's so much going on that's helping to sustain us and really show the community that the arts are essential to Chattanooga and to society. So I'm going to move on a little bit now and just say what our agenda is. Of course, we have Ann Pope, who's the Executive Director of the Tennessee Arts Commission, and welcome, Ann. And she also invited Hal Portlaw and Shannon Ford to be part of the conversation too. After Ann's discussion and any Q&A that people have, I'm just going to do a quick ArtsBuild update and then open it up for open discussion for announcements about what's going on. I also wanted to acknowledge, today is Juneteenth, and we celebrate along with everyone who is celebrating and commemorating that day. So Ann, if you are on, can you just say hi or take it from here? Maybe Shannon, I know you were on.
Yes, I'm texting Ann right now to find out what's going on.
Okay.
And because I apologize, but I just found out about this meeting this morning. So she's saying that she cannot get in. Can I ask if there's a call-in number?
I will send her the call-in. I think there is a call-in, but I know that we sent the registration, and it should have replied with a link. But is there any way? Let me see. I will try to reach out to Ann quickly and send her that information again. And while we're doing that, if anyone would like to start out with the announcements or follow-up information about what's going on in the arts community, we could do that while I'm trying to get Ann on the call.
Well, this Sunday at 2 p.m., we at Barking Legs are hosting a live stream with a band all the way from the UK, the Black Feathers. We are inviting everybody to join that concert with us on our Facebook page, and to help support the artists who are generously providing this performance for us. There's a link on the event page and tied to the video where you can donate to help the band out. Other than that, we are working on another performance with a collaboration between mostly the same dance we work with for the drive-in dances, and we'll have announcements about that coming up in the coming weeks.
The Southern Lit Alliance is having a virtual author lecture. It's also going to be a fundraiser for us on Sunday, June the 28th at 3 o'clock. We have Lee Smith, who is a New York Times bestseller and member of the Fellowship of Southern Writers. She has a new really fun book called Blue Marlin, and it's about a young teenager who goes with her family to Key West and encounters Tony Curtis making a movie. So it's just a fun read and lighthearted, which is good now. And it's free, but we're asking for donations to help support us. So we'll see how that goes.
What was the date for Lee Smith?
June the 28th. It's a Sunday afternoon at 3 o'clock.
Thank you.
And it's on Zoom. So you just register and we'll send you the link.
Okay, thank you.
All right, everyone, I sent Ann the link again. What other announcements and updates do we have?
Dang, I wish I had some shows to talk about, but still, because of COVID and social distancing, that's really not happening in large capacity. But I'm thankful for, again, these meetings. And I'm thinking about Juneteenth and how these slaves were freed, and they had, wow, you had this whole world ahead of you, but no one to help guide you. And so fast forwarding to where we are today on Juneteenth, we do have allies now to help us on our journey even more than we ever did. So this is a special Juneteenth, I think, in the world history. So I'm very, very confident and happy that I have friends on these Zoom meetings and in the community. So I'm still inspired to write, and hopefully I'll be seeing y'all soon. If you cared.
Hi, it's Henry Schulzen, Creative Discovery Museum, and we will be reopening on this coming Monday. It's members this week, and then on June 29th, we will be reopening to everybody. There are now time tickets. We have 2 sessions. One is from 10 to 1, and the other is from 2 to 5. We'll be doing a deep cleaning between those 2 sessions, so you need to reserve tickets in advance. And the only other thing is we will be doing temperature checks, and masks will be required for all ages 5 and up. So I hope people come down to the Creative Discovery Museum. Our special exhibit this summer, we've extended Kenya's Kids through the middle of August. Thanks.
This is John with Chattanooga Ballet. I can give a couple updates. We've been open since June 1st, and that has gone very well. Everyone's been very amenable to wearing masks at all times, and our disinfectant protocols have held very well. Our enrollment has exceeded my COVID expectations, if that makes sense. So they're not like crushing it out of the ballpark enrollment, but certainly better than I had steeled myself for. I think the other important thing I want to mention, especially today, is I have asked the board of directors, who have, of course, gladly accepted. We will have our first we have a consultant coming in to work with us on diversity. I have asked the board to create a written board level diversity policy as it pertains to the board, and then having the consultant help with that as well. Diversity in ballet has been a long-standing challenge, something that we take very seriously. It's not easy, but we're going to be working on it with real, I think the word that I hear a lot is no more talk, and that's what we are embracing, is no more talk. We're going to try to put everything we can to do that. So thank you to ArtsBuild and to everybody.
Thank you. I think someone messaged me and said that Ann is on the call now. Are you there, Ann?
Yes, I am, and my apologies to everybody for both being late and being on the phone. I couldn't get in for some reason.
No problem. Thank you for joining us. So you have 55 friends on the call with you right now. So thank you again, Ann, for joining us, and for all that the Arts Commission does to support the arts across the state. And I'm just gonna turn it over to you, and you let us know what you want us to hear, and then people can ask whatever questions that they would like to.
Yes, and thank you to everybody. I really appreciate this opportunity to be on the call. Also, with me from the Tennessee Arts Commission is Hal Partlow, our Associate Director for Grants, and Shannon Ford, who's our Community Arts Director. So I'm sure one of us will attempt to answer any questions that you might have. When James asked me to be on, to come on today, and thank you for that, James. James asked me to update everybody about really a couple subjects, and one is arts funding and what's going on with state arts funding. And so let me, and then just, anything else sort of COVID related as we go forward. So let me start with the state arts funding. Our budget, I think we sent a letter to anyone who is a grantee of ours. We sent a letter as well as posted it on our website, letting you know that that our awards that normally, our grant awards that normally come out this this time of year was going to be delayed until the state budget, until the legislature acted. The legislature passed a budget in March, right before right as the pandemic was hitting, on an accelerated time frame, and then came back, as most of you know, at the end of May, and started and opened the budget back up again, and looked to make changes given the situation that we're in and the reduced revenue that the state was experiencing, and I know in your local governments, and everybody is experiencing. So the state has been, the Senate passed a version last week, and then last night they came to an agreement, or actually this morning at 3:30 a.m. The legislature adjourned sine die, and so they have passed a budget. I haven't seen the details of it yet, but my understanding of it is what has passed for our budget is, and all state agencies are to reserve 12% in essence, to freeze it, that we can't spend. So I think most agencies are treating it as a 12% cut, that as the fiscal year gets underway, FY21, beginning July 1, they're going to see how the revenues are holding, are coming through. There is the expectation of $1 billion to $1.5 billion gap from closing out FY20 and then the FY21 budget. So I think the expectation is that that this cut will be taken, as well as potentially some others going forward. So a lot of it is kind of a wait and see as more information comes in. But we're expecting that and treating it as a 12% cut from our state appropriation. Most of our funding comes from the sale of specialty license plates. We are projecting those numbers to be down this next year, to be impacted both by the pandemic, as well as I know that Chattanooga experienced some tornadoes and severe had severe impact in Chattanooga. Nashville had, right before the pandemic hit in early March, there was a tornado that in Middle Tennessee that destroyed all the state equipment that makes license plates. And so that has impacted everything. There is an MOU that the state of Tennessee has made. This is probably more than you want to know, but with another state to produce just the general license plate. But until the new equipment comes into the state, there is no ability to produce new specialty plates or personalized plates, of which we receive funding. So we're expecting that will impact us as well as the pandemic in a negative way. So we've had to plan accordingly. All to say, our budget will be down. We did send out a letter, an email rather, about the CARES money, the federal CARES money that comes through the NEA. We received $474,000 through the NEA for the CARES funding, plus an additional $60,000 from South Arts, of which we are a member, for a total of $534,000. We are going to distribute all of that funding, the $534,000, to 190 arts organizations and local governments across the state. Our intent is to do that as soon as we hear from the NEA which organizations received the direct grants of $50,000, and those organizations will be excluded from our distribution in an attempt to spread the money as far as and broadly as possible. The NEA says that they expect to make an announcement at the end of June, and so we expect very soon after that to send out grant award letters and get those out, if not before. And so that's I expect that our funding will be done in phases, though those phases may be all at once, or after we kind of decipher the budget, we'll try to act as soon as possible, knowing that arts organizations, including many of you, need to know what their grant award is, and we want to act as soon as we feel confident what our budget number is. So, does anybody have any questions on that?
And there's one question in the chat right now that says, do you know if they're still processing the request for new license plates?
They are not for, that's a really good question. They are not processing applications for new personalized plates. They have not been doing that since February, since the beginning of March, rather. February was the last month. For new specialty plates, there is inventory. Already across the 95 county clerks' offices. There was going to be, they promised us when working with Tricor and the county clerks, we have had discussions with them, and the hope was, and the attempt would be, if somebody ordered a specialty plate and there was inventory in another county clerk's office, they were going to try to move inventory around within those clerk's office. And so hopefully that will get us through a few months. The expectation is the new equipment would come sometime this fall, the new license plate making equipment. Did that answer the question? So the answer is no, there is no new applications for personalized plates, but hopefully there is some inventory with other new specialty plates. So, you know, we hope people will still try to buy new specialty plates, and we'll see how long the inventory holds. The good news is that you know, people who already have specialty license plates can renew those plates.
For people who are monitoring the chat, Linda asked, will the additional funds with the CARE grant require an application process, or is it going to be part of the annual funding? And Shannon responded that the CARES funding coming through the commission will not require a new application.
Right. We it is it does not require an application. You could go on our website. If you did not receive, we put it on our website. We put it in our newsletter. We sent out a blast, and it has a criteria of how to be eligible. And I don't know if Hal or Shannon, I think generally you have to be deemed to be an arts organization and received, be an FY21 grantee and receive funding the last 2 years, right, Shannon and Hal?
Sorry, I was just trying to figure out how to unmute. Yes, that's right. So you do have to have a funding history with the Tennessee Arts Commission, and you will not, if you are primarily or only an ABC applicant and have not received direct funding from the commission, you will not be receiving CARES funding.
Charlie asked for grant scheduled to begin in July. Will there be room to change?
I'll go ahead and answer that. Yes, there will be room to change. We have drawn up guidance for all grantees, all project grantees, especially, if COVID-19 is still limiting your activities, or, really making your proposed activities impossible in the form that was in your application. We have guidance that we will be sending out with revised budgets that will help you figure out which way to go. And we have several options. So, Ann, do you want me to go through those now, or wait?
Sure. Go ahead, Shannon. You're on a roll.
Okay. So first of all, the first option is, really, and this will be a staff approval process. So you'll have to talk to us as staff, to discuss what your potential plans are. But if your project can't take place in the form that was proposed, you can propose an alternative project that has similar outcomes. So if for instance, you can do your project in an online format and can demonstrate what those grant and matching expenses will be, then we can approve that. If it is that the project itself is impossible in this environment, we will consider a completely different equivalent project and expenses for that. So you will get an opportunity to talk about what other things you could do with the grant funding that's being offered. If it is that, as, projects go, you're not really able to execute those, and you're an arts organization, we will also look at how to convert the grant into operating expenses. If you're not an arts organization, we will look at future planning and projects that really are meant to build the arts infrastructure in your community. So there are a few options. We'll also, be looking at up to $5,000 worth of technology expenses, if that's something that is going to really advance your work. So we have quite a few options that we can explore with you if the project that you proposed just can't take place the way that you proposed it. Are there any questions about that?
We don't have a question, but Ann Law said that that's very good news, and she's thankful for you all opening the door for equipment to push people even further online. And thank you for doing that. And would you talk for a few moments about just what's going on across the state and how you've seen and heard organizations address COVID and, be nimble and make changes during COVID?
Yes, but before I do that, James, just to make sure that people are aware, on a funding opportunity, I do just want to add, we did put it on in our newsletter, and I believe it's on our website. The Andrew W. Mellon Foundation awarded funding to the 6 regional arts councils for a regional arts resilience fund. And it's including, and that's one of those was to South Arts. South Arts got about 1.4 million, and they are going to make grants between 30 and 100,000 to support sort of those long-term organizations that have, they say, to ensure under-resourced vital arts and cultural organizations weather the current crisis. And so I invite you to go to our website, or and if you can't find it, it's called the South Arts Resilience Fund. The deadline is Tuesday, so it's a very quick turnaround. It's June 23rd. It's by nomination. They are doing they are inviting applications from organizations, so they have a nomination process, but there is an ability to self-nominate. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I think it's worth looking at and you could go to the South Arts website as well. I think it's worth a look to see if anybody thinks, looking at their guidelines, whether you would qualify. The application is not that intensive.
I was going to speak about that in our Arts Build update. We're a nominator for that. So if any organizations would like for us to nominate them, please email me after this meeting and we will do that. I did email South Arts because their requirements were that you have a multi-state or regional scope, but also that you serve typically underserved communities. And I was really challenged by that. So they also have a mandated $250,000 budget. And I just reached out for better clarity, and they said that the scope is flexible. Almost anything in the guidelines or criteria are flexible except for the $250,000 budget. I think that must be a requirement from the Mellon Foundation. So we emailed everyone that information earlier this week, but you might want to look back and just let us know if you'd like for us to nominate you or nominate yourselves.
I think that's great. Of course, I'm glad that you reached out to everybody, James, and your nominator. I think that you're right on point, and you've done just the same thing that we've done, is to call up South Arts. I was on the phone yesterday with South Arts trying to get a little bit more clarity on what, the underserved and under-resourced, what that meant. And so I think, that can be, that can mean different things, like an under-resourced population, under-resourced, even under-resourced organization. I think it's a little broad, but I think, so I think they're leaving a lot of white space, so to speak, that you can define how the organization is under-resourced, whether it's the population you serve or the organization itself.
There was a question about the 360 grants, Arts 360. Do you have any updates about that?
I don't know. I don't know that we've announced that yet. We are trying to get our award letters out, as soon as possible, and I think that announcement will come with that. I don't believe we've announced that yet, but we're working on our award letters now, as well as our denial letters, like we normally do, and we'll get that out as soon as possible.
Go
ahead.
Sorry, someone just asked, could you mention your website again? And I have a lot going on right now, so if when you say it, if someone would add it to the chats for us, that would be great.
It's TennesseeArtsCommission.org, and is our website. But if you just Google Tennessee Arts Commission, it'll come right up, or it should come right up. And that leads me, you ask us to talk about different, what's going on across the state and different organizations, sort of what's going on. I will say, if you go to our website, with things changing so quickly, we decided that the most efficient thing to do is we have a COVID-19 resource page, and that's where anything related, Suzanne Lynch, who is our marketing and development director, she's managing this, and I think what we do is we put everything, the most up-to-date information there. I'm looking at it right now. It has some updates as far as the Financial Stimulus Accountability Group, which is the group that is that's focused on the more than $200 million well, it's actually almost $1 billion in federal CARES money that has come to the state. So they talk about, we put different of the governor's executive orders. We try to put everything, the most latest information on there. There's some really good guidance, about the PPP loan forgiveness program that U.S. Treasury has put up. So, has just released. There's a lot of Americans for the Arts information, And so, I would say if you could go there, that's where all of our information is. And if anybody is going there and has any questions, but it has a lot of different information. It is our most up-to-date information. I would say that what's going on across the state, one of the things that we did at the very beginning of this, of the pandemic, we began a weekly call with the 4 Metro Arts Councils: Knoxville, Nashville, Chattanooga, and Memphis. And James and Rodney have been on those calls at the very beginning. Thank you to James and Rodney for being on those. And where we're trying to understand what is going on across the state, and I think much of what is happening in Chattanooga is reflective and happening across the state. We are, I think, we are seeing, that the arts organizations, we saw the immediate, where everything shut down, and heard, many a story, and I talked to many of organizations that went, from 70-80% earned revenue, was great and on target in February, and going to zero or next to zero, come the second or third week in March. And so, and it was compounded, of course, when the spring season is when many fundraisers are, and the height of many, or the beginning of the busiest seasons, for most arts organizations. So I think it's been tough. There have been several presentations to the legislature from economists, and there was one in early June that talked about the different sectors and how they've been affected. While they didn't have the nonprofit arts sector, they did have a tourism and entertainment sector, which I think certainly our museums and many performing arts organizations would fit within that. Of all the sectors in Tennessee that was hit by far the hardest. And so I think it's obviously, I don't need to tell you all that, but the legislators did hear that. And I think, and the state is experiencing that really from Memphis to Mountain City. I would say that that early on, in talking to the 4 Metro Arts Councils, of which Arts Build was a major contributor, the decision was made that each locally that each local arts agency would survey, would ask that organizations keep track and report their losses and the effect of the pandemic, so they could have that information locally and in the form they needed it. But on a statewide level, that we would, rather than the Tennessee Arts Commission asking for an additional survey, and then Americans for the Arts asking for another survey, we would push everybody, we would encourage everybody to fill out the Americans for the Arts survey. Many organizations in Tennessee did that, and what that did was that both informed the impact and Tennessee was a part by our organizations filling out the AFTA survey. We were a part of the national story of the losses, and we took, and so I think that was reflected in the fact that the NEA got CARES Act funding, $75 million in CARES Act funding, as well as the humanities getting $75 million in CARES Act funding. And so I think that was really important and effective. And then we have taken that information from a statewide standpoint and made the legislature aware and have publicized the impact that it's having on our nonprofit arts and culture sector in Tennessee. So that was really important. I thank James and Rodney and Arts Build for their input into that. I think it's been effective. And, you know, I would encourage everybody to continue to measure their impact of this. You know, I think as far as, you know, opening back up, I know Chattanooga has in Hamilton County has their own opening back up. The same in the Nashville metropolitan area. They have just announced they're moving to phase 3 beginning Monday. And what we've seen is that the museums sort of have opened up partially, probably first. And I think, you know, and what we've seen is what I'm sure, you know, much of what's been reported by James and Rodney about what's going on in Chattanooga is that it's one thing, you know, that performing arts organizations are trying to figure that out. You know, it's one thing to be open and safe, but it's another for audiences to respond and feel safe in coming back. So we've seen some of the larger performing arts organizations, like, for example, the Nashville Symphony has canceled their next year's season. They've gone ahead and just canceled it. But I would say many organizations are kind of doing a wait and see and trying to be a little bit closer to the time period. I've heard people say, you know, trying to plan, if you will, on a quarterly basis. And so a lot of organizations are waiting and seeing. I've talked for a long time. Does anybody have any comments or questions on that? And I'm sorry I can't see the chats. Hal or Shannon, did you want to add anything?
This is Shannon. One thing that I would like to add is for all of the greater Chattanooga organizations and municipalities to keep in mind is that we do have a grant deadline coming up on July 1st for the Arts Build Communities program. Arts Build is the designated agency for Hamilton County, and Southeast Tennessee Development District is the designated agency for surrounding counties. And what that means is that they administer the grants, they issue the contracts, and they issue the funds. But in accordance with the program guidelines and specifications that we have in our partnership contract with them. The maximum request for this grant program has been raised. So it was $2,500 in the past several years. It is now a maximum request of $3,500. And this grant can be used for a broad range of community-focused projects. I'll put the link to the guidelines in the chat. I would encourage all of you to think about, what you can do this coming year. If you have had projects that you've had to cancel or postpone in this last year, those are eligible for consideration during this program. Of course, you'll have to execute any canceled projects in the new year. And also, we certainly are very cognizant of the need to really keep social distancing in your community. So if it's an online project, if it's something that normally it would not be something that you would execute, still talk to us, talk to our designated agencies, and we'll work with you in getting your application submitted. Again, that deadline is July 1st at 11:59 p.m. through our online grant system. I'd be happy to answer any questions about it.
Well, y'all, we have about 10 minutes left. So I just want to take a few moments to thank Ann for coming on and visiting with us today. I also want to thank Shannon and Hal for their participation. What we hear from you is what's going on here in Chattanooga and across the state. So much is in flux, but we're all just continuing to make our way through. Thank you again, Ann, and people are, well, that's it, thanks, James. I thought people were saying thank you in the comments, but everybody just give Ann a thumbs up and some applause for visiting with us today. And did you have any final words or any comments before you head out?
No, I would only like to thank you and James, and Rodney, and everybody in Chattanooga. I know how difficult this is. Such a difficult and unprecedented, and the word I hear over and over is surreal. I know this has been a difficult time and continues to be a difficult, and the unknown is nerve-wracking. And but I'd like to say I've never been prouder of our arts organizations. In many ways, your leaders in both for what makes Tennessee. It is the arts and culture of the state. I think it's what makes us Tennessee. And you have been a leader before this happened, and you're a leader now in how to deal, whether it's through virtual programming that you've offered. And then as the communities across the state open up, how to do that safely and responsibly. And so I just want to thank you all. I know it's had a devastating effect on you all, and I just want you to know we're in this with you and want to do whatever we can to help in this time to see that you come through this. So thank you to everybody for what you're doing.
Well, we appreciate you and appreciate the leadership from you and your team at the state level.
Thank you, James.
Thank you.
And thank you. Bye-bye.
So before we close out, I just wanted to do a quick update on ArtsBuild and some things that we have going on. And as you know, we're doing our mission support review panels right now. And that is perfect because Rodney is facilitating those. He's not on the call. So I wanted to let you all know that we are planning a surprise celebration for Rodney. Don't tell him, you have to keep it secret. And we're gonna spread the information and share it with you all as soon as we finish the planning. Somebody just said something in the chat. Okay, I was thinking somebody was going to say Rodney is actually on the call. So it's good that he's doing the mission support panels. But that does mean that we'll be reaching out to you soon about allocations. You know, like Ann said, so much is still unprecedented and in flux, and we're trying to figure out now, you know, how our funding is going to be in FY21. Thank you all who participated in the advocacy emails and calls for all of the arts funding in the city budget just a couple of weeks ago. Again, I was going to talk to you about the Arts South opportunity. If you would like for us to nominate you or your organization, please email me today so that I can work on that over the weekend. And also, I wanted to let you know that this morning we opened up our Artist Emergency Fund again for individual artist grants up to $500. That is through the generosity of public donations and also through a gift that we received recently from the Benwood Foundation. So if you see them around town, please say thank you. And I want to publicly thank everyone who has donated to the fund and to Arts Build. Our office will be opening, we hope, fingers crossed, on July 6th. And we'll open up our office again and we're still gonna pause and limit the number of people that we welcome into the building and the number of meetings that we hold. But that's our target date that we will open on July 6th, and staff will be in and out of the office on a staggered schedule at that point. The final thing that I wanted to tell you was thank you to everyone who has applied for the Humanities Tennessee funding. I was able to get the grants and the list of applicants from Tim, and lots of Chattanooga organizations applied, and to me that's a wonderful thing. So I know that the decisions will be made next week, and then you'll be hearing soon about your awards. But I wanted to just say thank you to everyone for participating today, for joining us. Thank Ann and her team again for being part of this. And does anyone have any final questions or comments before we log off today? Well,
I have.
Yeah.
Somebody else was gonna. I'll quickly. When you go back into the office, will you continue to have these Zoom meetings?
So we've talked about that, and what we're hoping to do is continue them, maybe not on a weekly basis, but at least a monthly basis, because we've really enjoyed it and enjoyed the synergy that it's created for Arts Build throughout the arts community. So we would love to hear your feedback about that decision, if you think we should do it more or less, and any topics that you think we should address in the future. And somebody said, make sure Rodney doesn't see this recording. That's a good point. Maybe we need to hold this one and not put it on our YouTube page yet. All right, yeah.
James, I wanted to say I also really enjoyed these weekly calls. So I think Monica's suggesting maybe bi-weekly. But I wanted to ask you, what is a suggestion you would have for one way we could honor today as Juneteenth? What's something that you do to celebrate it?
Well, I'm having a small socially distanced gathering later today. But one thing that people do to celebrate Juneteenth is to think a little bit about the past and their ancestors. There's some traditional foods that you eat for Juneteenth, strawberry soda, red drinks. But I really think that a way to honor it this year is to really think about where our country is right now and how we can support the freedom movements that are happening right now, whether that's with our time, our bodies, our energy, or our money, or our creativity. So go out and do it. That's what I'm gonna do. But happy Juneteenth to everyone. And it's been wonderful spending this morning with you. So have a great day, okay?
Thank you.
Bye, y'all.